Hi, I just posted a video titled Chris Watts, colon, NK. And I'm going to put number 1 and I'm going to put number 2 on here. I'd like to bring up a few clarifications on that video. There's these two women in Chris Watts' situation right before he did the unthinkable. Two different women. NK is more of a natural beauty. Shannon Watts, a little bit more made up, taking care of her appearance a little bit more. Perhaps NK more natural in terms of a little bit more rugged. She took Chris Watts camping for the first time, and he really liked that he did that he went camping. Yet the two women very different and yet very similar. And NK a little bit more slender, but she hasn't had any children yet. They're similar age, all three of them. What started it all, or what seems to have started? Co-workers have said that they had noticed a little bit of behavior between the two of them, between Chris Watts and NK, months prior to what ensued. But just within a short time before Shanann's trip to North Carolina, NK approached Chris Watts through a email on his work email, and the email was a come on. You know that it's a come on. She's saying, "Oh, I'd like to have something like you have with your wife and those cute little girls, but I believe in karma." So she's talking about not doing something wrong. If he was not married, where would be the karma? Obviously, she's thinking, well, you're married, so it looks that way. Anyway, at the same time, she is using a business email to talk about non-business, and that can get people into trouble. Coming on to co-workers and going to bed with co-workers can get you in trouble. Some employers frown upon these things because it's unwise. If you sleep with a co-worker, what if things go wrong, and then you still have to see them at work, and then the work relationship is affected. And that's why employers sometimes frown upon this, let alone if the co-worker in question is married. So it speaks of boundaries also. There's this seemingly lack of boundaries coming onto a co-worker to begin with, lack of boundary sleeping with a married man. So one thing is that, people's personal lives outside of work, but when things happen inside of work, then that's a little bit different. We know that there's companies that have Christmas parties and people get drunk, and sometimes these hanky-pankies happen, but I think it's getting to the direction where companies are preferring that people keep their personal life separate and using business email, company email for these sort of things may not be necessarily something they really like. Like I said, could get you into trouble. So there's a little bit of lack of discernment, lack of boundaries, lack of respecting certain boundaries, societal norms. You don't sleep with married people. There's also the timing. So the co-workers had said, Chris's co-workers had said that they had noticed more before all this happened. So was there any kind of timing? Like, did she have a inside? Shanann Watts was very public with a lot of her plans and things that she had to do. And when you see Facebook posts, a lot of them had that little globe, which means that they're public, it means anybody can see those posts. Did she ever, I don't know, I haven't seen if she ever talked about her plans of going to North Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised, because she was talking about her company. That was her way of promoting her business. But she was also, sometimes, apparently, sometimes people forget to change settings. And she was talking about things that were personal with a little globe. Like, for instance, when she was trying to figure out how come Chris had cooked two of the same thing, big meat meals, when she had so much explained to him what to do. So the timing, is it possible that NK knew that the wife was going to be away? And if she's saying, well, I want what Shanann wants, I want what your wife has with you. I like what you guys have. Basically, I like you. And the wife is going to be away. Was that the timing, or was it coincidental timing that she put the move on him and came on with the email? So, let's talk about what we can glean from the information that we have. The scant amount of information, but we have some that might paint a picture. And let's talk about NK's relationship with men and what other things can be going on. So Chris Watts said, I had never been pursued before. And the email shows that NK was the one that took the initiative here. So she may have been the aggressor, the pursuer. And then so soon, after only a month, she's looking for wedding dresses after talking to her friend about this guy. And there's a little fudging in my view, in my opinion, when she tells her friend, well, he's been there, he's done that. It looks like she was a little bit preoccupied also with who is more important, who is playing second fiddle, who matters more. All these things that look somewhat immature. Like when people, a little bit of underdevelopment emotionally, because when you grow up as an adult, these things don't seem so important for the most part. But she seems preoccupied with these things, and I'll bring up one more instance where she mentions that. So she is talking to her friend about this guy, blah, blah, blah. The friend encourages her. And then she's looking, apparently according to the discovery, she's looking for wedding dresses. Only after a month of sleeping with this married man. Talking about boundaries, also another boundary that is a little bit questionable is her stating that she had been inside that house, the same house where his wife lives. So if she set foot on that house, that's also very interesting. We're seeing a lot of lack of wisdom, a lot of lack of discernment, somewhat recklessness, I think, in my view. So this relationship with men, she's the pursuer, she's the aggressor, and then she complains that to her friend that this guy might be different, unlike all those guys she sleeps with. She doesn't say that, she said that she dates, that are non-committal. So are these relationships going too fast? Are people feeling that they move too fast, too soon? Or men in general, sometimes, I'm not going to make generalizations about men. I'll say people. But sometimes there are differences between men and women. And so I'll just say that in the roles that we play, because we are different. And whoever thinks that we're not, we're very similar, but we're also very different. Just, you can look biology, you can do anything. But we are different culturally also, and culture is part of who we are, how we're raised. It's possible that men don't like women that pursue them, or if they pursue them too blatantly. And unfortunately for some people in society, they'll use people. They'll sleep with someone if they're good looking, and ciao, bye bye. That's all they want. That's very unfortunate that that happens too. So anyway, she was complaining that men that she slept with were not committal. Another thing that goes into looking at this, what we can glean about personality and perhaps the psychology. She brings Dad with her to talk to the police, and Dad gets testy with the police. You're leading. Stop. He's like stopping the police. And what you notice a little bit here that is also different than what, everybody's different, but they're both not bullying the police, because the police is not going to be bullied, but they're both telling the police, seems like, telling them what to do. And she, like they're in charge or something. It's very different. It's very peculiar, I think, in terms of what you're seeing with Dad and daughter. And later, when NK decides to cooperate, but she does not cooperate. She cooperates, but not fully. She's wishy-washy and cooperating with the police. She surrenders her phone. Apparently, there's all these texts, like lots of texts to the investigator about her phone, about getting another phone. Keep asking him, did you get all the texts? She keeps asking about these texts, and it might seem perhaps a little pushy. She could be very nervous, and I'm thinking that there might be not only does she have something to hide regarding the crime that took place, but her involvement, but there may be something more to her private sex life that she doesn't want public. And so it looks like she keeps asking about witness protection, perhaps because who knows what can come public about her, besides also the fact that she's already looked at very responsible in getting involved with this married man with kids, and what happened. Plus, who knows, is there more to that? But she keeps asking about witness protection, and it looks like the police says, yeah, you can talk to so-and-so about witness protection. Some people thought that meant they were moving on to give her witness protection. The text simply says you can talk to so-and-so about it. And I think what they mean perhaps is that more can be explained in terms of, could be what qualifies and what doesn't. But one thing that I noticed is people that are pushy, with some people there's a pushback and they don't get what they want, but with some people they can be so strong, adamant, that sometimes people just give them what they want because it's easier, path of least resistance is easier than having to deal with them. And I don't know what it might be like for the investigators. And then in terms of all these things, all this picture that we're putting together, her body language when she is filmed talking with the investigator, she's lounging, sometimes she's leaning back, looking provocative. Then again, we're wondering about, is there a lack of boundaries? Is this the way she behaves around men? So that's that. So what I wanted to bring up is that Chris Watts, he talked about being at NK's house the whole month of July, which is very interesting for someone who just got together with. Don't know very well, has seen it work, but how much do you know each other? And then he was explaining that, he had to go outside to take phone calls from Shanann. And there was a time when he was asleep, so he didn't take the phone call. And Shanann was reasonably upset because, although he didn't seem to understand why Shanann was upset, because all he said, "Oh, I just simply fell asleep." Well, he's a man that apparently when he goes to work wakes up in the wee hours of the morning, and most people, when they have a regular schedule, on the day off they'll still get up early, because that's their routine. So anyway, he's not understanding apparently for what he was saying. He kept mixing up because he started to talk about NK being angry. Then he brings up Shanann being angry. The investigators, is Shanann or NK, which one are you talking about? But while he talked about both women being angry, NK being angry because he had to leave to go home and take a FaceTime phone call from his kids, he threw around the word when they asked him about it. He said, I had to talk her out off the ledge. He was meaning NK. Both women were upset or angry, but he only referred to NK as talking her off the ledge. And when the investigators asked him again, he said he just threw the term bipolar. Now, this is something that can be thrown around, word that people throw around. But if you're using that word, are you meaning, switching moods, swings? Are you talking about erratic, exaggerated reactions, being irascible and irrational? And when he first said, talk her off the ledge, I was thinking, what does that mean? I imagine someone in a high building sitting on the ledge ready to jump. And so I'm thinking suicidal. But maybe he was meaning just very irrational. Was there on any other things that were happening when he says talk her off the ledge? Did he have to pacify this woman? And so the picture that is getting painted, and of course I could be totally wrong on these, but we see a person who gets what she wants, willful, capricious, self-absorbed, only concerned about herself. When she was being talked to by the police, she's mostly concerned about what's going to happen to her. Lashing out, according to Chris, threatening to have other dates if he goes to North Carolina perhaps, or whatever is happening that she's not having, or things not being the way she wants. A protective daddy. Is daddy protecting her even if she's done something wrong, not letting her deal with the consequences of her own actions, but daddy comes and rescues. So is the daddy a protective daddy? And is she in general manipulative? And I think she is. And she's preoccupied with who's more important. So what I wanted to bring back one more time, not only she mentions being second fiddle because Chris Watts has a wife and kids, but even when she's talking to the investigators and she mentions Jim, and she said, we were outside with Jim, I was outside with Jim, and I took a phone call from Chris. She said the girls were taking center stage. So this seems very important. Who gets the attention? And I wanted to go back to something about threatening to have other dates, because apparently she also mentioned that when Chris was going to go to North Carolina, she said something to the effect, yes, go and I'll just have my dates. And Chris Watts also mentioned her saying something about things not working out. They're not working. So is she giving him, if she's threatening, is she giving him an ultimatum? And I wanted to leave that because that's part of my conclusion here. But touching on all the things that are happening, how she behaves, the complaints she has about men, how she behaves towards her body language when she's interviewed by the investigator. Chris saying, if it's true, that she was double booking or double dating him, that she had all these other dates lined up, and if these men canceled, didn't show up, weren't able to make it, then she would be with Chris. And he didn't know about this until later, apparently. And then you have whether there is these mood swings to the point of threatening. Did he have to talk her off the ledge? Because what were the level of threats if he has to go home and take a phone call from his wife? So if we're talking about bipolar, what happens with bipolar is that there's two extremes. You have a manic phase where you're at the top of the world, everything is fantastic, you can't shop enough, you can't spend enough money. Some people have shopping sprees, they spend all the money, everything is carefree. And then you have a depressive low, so it's an up and a low, and mood swings are part of that. And sometimes what has happened with some people, I know a public figure that made a video about this, what happened to her is that if the depressive aspect is managed with medication and the manic phase is not taking care of it, the manic phase just keeps going and going. And for some people it could be shopping or doing very dangerous things. Some people it could be that they can get hypersexualized. So they can have this insatiable sex, and that's why you have heard the word sex maniac. A sex maniac, or those women that cannot have enough sex. I don't remember the term that they're used for that. I'm not saying that's what her case, but think of this. She searched on the internet, she searched anal sex, and she searched threesomes. It looks like somebody that's looking for adventures that, are outlandish, sexually outlandish. And so, the double booking, making plans to be with other people if Chris Watts was not available to be with her. And that's the story of that public figure, that lady that was an athlete, that this happened to her, is that it's possible to manage the manic phase as well with medication. But there's also the other aspects that this, for instance, the athletic lady didn't seem to have, which was those aspects that I talked about: willfulness. I like to have my notes here. The willfulness, the lack of boundaries, a person that has to have what they want, things have to be the way they want them, things have to be the way they say. And it's important who comes first, even if your rivals are little girls, little daughters. They have to have what they want, and they have to have it. And then someone has to pacify them if things are not the way they want. And that might be speaking of some other issues or disorders. So, Chris Watts said something to the effect that he was just throwing all these little things here and there. It's almost like instead of just bringing everything up, he just mentions things. So he said that NK told him something about not working. This is not working out. Things are not working out. Was she threatening him? Was there an ultimatum? Will she say that she'll date others if she's not first? And does she have demands? And this is very strong, but I'll say it. It's a question. Did she say, I'm not saying it happened, but did she say, get rid of your wife, get rid of your kids, or else I'm moving on? I'm not going to be, excuse me, second fiddle to them. And if that's the case, what are the legal considerations? Can she be sued by Shanann's family for being, what's the legal word? In any way, for precipitating, for causing the death of their daughter, their sister? Is she legally responsible in any way? I'm thinking the burden of proof is a lot less. It's much lesser on a civil suit. The burden of proof is, as far as I know, a lot taller. You have to meet a higher standard for proof for criminal law, but not for civil law, a civil suit. And that's what happened with O.J. Simpson. He was found not guilty of the crime, but the judge, or however the trial on the civil suit happened, was in favor of the family. And so I think that, Chris Watts, perhaps with psychopathic traits, and NK with her personality issues, this was a ticking bomb, and this was the detonator, and it's an explosive combination, and really bad things took place. Because I wanted to say, if NK say get rid of this woman, and did mom say get rid of this woman? And when you say get rid of somebody, you don't necessarily mean murder, but what are the responsibilities? Who's responsible besides Chris Watts? Is there more? Chris Watts is responsible. He's responsible, but was there someone egging that things be different? Well, perhaps we'll never know. But I wanted to bring these considerations. I was asked to talk about NK, and so I made 2 videos. The first one and this one's just kind of polishing, trying to make it more chronological, starting from the beginning towards the end. God bless these people, these angels and little girls, and Shanann Watts and her family. And I'm concerned that as far as I know, I'm not concerned because the family members have said that they are getting therapy, because this can leave people pretty messed up, and thus why a civil sue is perfectly right. Them suing Chris Watts even in jail, and if they sue another individual that might be found somewhat responsible as well. And the reason is this can leave people so messed up. But there's the possibility that they can get stronger also. They can rise above the evilness of this whole outcome. And so a prayer goes out to them. This is my friend Archangel Michael. And I'd like to mention him real quick, introduce him to you. He's an archangel. I believe in angels. I believe in angels. Anybody else out there believes in angel? Irrelevance of the case, we know that people are seeing paranormal things happening with Shinyan and the girls after they passed. This archangel is in the Bible. It's mentioned. I'm not a big Bible person, but I love angels. And he is the real superhero. He comes to save the day. If you're ever in danger, don't hesitate. Call him. He'll come and save you. Have a nice day.